She told everyone at the party that I should go sleep because I get confused at night. I'm Margaret Chen, 65 years old, retired Air Force nurse, and this is my home. What my daughter-in-law didn't know was that this quiet grandmother she'd been pushing around had $480,000 saved up, friends who work in hospitals across the state, and 7 nurse friends ready to show her what real strength looks like. For almost a year, my daughter-in-law Lisa treated my medical knowledge like old useless information. She talked to me like I couldn't remember anything, took away my garden tools, and told neighbors I was getting too old to think clearly. But at my son's birthday dinner, when she told guests I needed to go rest like a child, she made a mistake that would change everything. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just picked up my phone. If you're watching, please subscribe and tell me where you're from, especially if you have nurses in your family, because what happened next showed that a nurse never forgets how to take care of business. Let me go back almost 1 year. That's when David, my son, moved in with his wife Lisa after I had what they called a bad fall. It wasn't really a fall. I slipped on wet stairs and hurt my ankle. I was better in 3 weeks, walking normally again, but I felt scared and lonely. When David said they'd stay and help me, I said yes. That was my big mistake. In just days, Lisa started acting like I lived in a hospital and she was in charge. She'd talk really loud and really slow like I was a baby. "Margaret, do you remember to drink water?" Everyone on the street could hear her. My ears work perfectly fine. I can hear a whisper from across a room. But Lisa didn't care about what was true. She only cared about what she could tell people. Lisa moved all my nursing books to the basement. She said they made the house look messy and old. My certificates, my award photos, my uniform from my Air Force days, everything disappeared like I was someone to be embarrassed about. "We need the space to look more modern," she told David. "Modern for who? This is my house." Then my car keys went missing one day. I looked everywhere. "Margaret, we think you shouldn't drive anymore," David said. Lisa stood behind him with her arms crossed like a boss. "I have a perfect driving record," I told them. "The doctor said I'm completely fine to drive." "We know what's best for you," Lisa said. Those 4 words became her favorite weapon against me. She started going through my mail before I could see it. "I'll take care of your bills, Margaret. You don't need the stress." She made all my doctor visits without asking me first. When I said I could do these things myself, she'd make a big sigh and say, "You're getting mixed up again." The worst part was I started thinking maybe she was right. I'd stop and think twice before I said anything, wondering if I'd sound silly. I'd sit quietly while they decided things about my life, my home, my schedule. The proud nurse who'd saved lives in 3 different countries was disappearing in her own house. Lisa told her friends I was getting weak and confused. I heard her talking on the phone one day. "Margaret's really going downhill fast. We basically take care of her like she's our child now." She said it in this voice like she was doing such a good thing. But I was paying for their food, their electric bills, their phone bills. I owned this house completely. Bought it in 1992 with money I saved from my military nursing job. Paid off every penny by 2010. Today it's worth $420,000 with no debt. My military pension gives me $38,000 every year. My retirement savings add another $22,000. My bank accounts hold $480,000 that I saved over 30 years of careful spending. I'm not rich, but I'm not helpless, and I'm definitely not confused. But Lisa had convinced everyone I was both. She'd cut me off when I was talking to guests. "Margaret gets details wrong sometimes," she'd say, patting my hand like I was a confused puppy. My own son would nod and agree. The breaking point was getting close. I could feel it building like a storm coming. What Lisa didn't know was that I'd been writing everything down in a journal. Every mean comment, every decision made without asking me, every lie told about my health, and I had help she never imagined. 4 months ago, I found Lisa's notebook under the couch cushions. She'd been writing plans. Page fell out when I picked it up. Said things that made my heart stop. "Margaret is basically gone mentally now. Time to start power of attorney paperwork." Power of attorney. That means she wanted legal control over everything I own. I read more pages. Each one was worse than the last. Lisa's notes to herself. Margaret won't know what the papers mean. We just need her signature. Once we get guardianship approved, we can sell the house and buy something better. David's question written in the margin. What about her retirement money? Lisa's answer. All of it. The lawyer said if she's declared unable to think clearly, we control everything. I took pictures of every page with my phone. Sent them to my own email. Deleted them from her phone records. They weren't trying to help me. They were planning to take everything I'd worked 40 years to build. $480,000 in savings, $420,000 house, military pension rights, medical benefits, everything a nurse earned by working night shifts and saving every extra dollar. They wanted to take it all to buy themselves a bigger, fancier house. That evening I called my old friend and lawyer, Patricia Moore. Patricia was a JAG lawyer in the Air Force. We served together in Desert Storm. I trust her with my life. Margaret, what you're showing me is clear elder abuse, Patricia said on the phone. Financial theft from a disabled veteran. If they try getting guardianship without your real permission, we can charge them with crimes. What do I need? She asked. Papers that prove everything, proof that you can think clearly, evidence that they're lying. I had the notebook photos, but I needed more. The next week, I made my own doctor appointment without telling Lisa. Dr. Samuel Rodriguez has been my doctor for 12 years. I told him the whole story. Margaret, you're one of my healthiest patients, he said. Your mind is completely sharp. Your body is strong for your age. There's no medical reason anyone should control your life. Can you write that down officially? Absolutely. And I'm putting in your medical file that any claims about mental problems are completely false. But the real shock came when I looked at all my money carefully. This house isn't just my home. It's my biggest treasure. Worth $420,000 in today's market. No mortgage, no loans, completely mine. Title has only my name on it. My retirement account, $480,000 built from military savings and smart choices after I stopped working. Monthly records show steady growth every year. Yearly income, $60,000 between pension and retirement money. More than enough to live well by myself. Total worth, almost $900,000. I'm not the helpless victim Lisa described to her friends. I'm a financially smart veteran being stolen from by family who saw dollar signs instead of a person. The notebook showed their timeline clearly. They planned to file for emergency guardianship, claiming I was dangerous to myself. Their proof would be Lisa's reports to my doctor about confusion and forgetting things. Except my doctor knew the truth now. My bank records showed responsible choices, and I had recordings. Patricia had told me that recording conversations in my own home was completely legal. I'd been documenting Lisa's manipulation for weeks. "Margaret, sweetie, you can't understand these bank papers," Lisa said one morning, grabbing my monthly investment report from my hands. "You get too worried about numbers." I recorded the whole thing. Her condescending voice, her false claims about my mental state, her plans with David to take my money without permission. But the most important recording came from Lisa's phone call with their lawyer. Lisa thought I was napping upstairs when she talked in the kitchen. I was actually standing in the hallway recording everything on my phone. "So if we prove she can't think straight, we get complete control of the house?" Lisa asked the lawyer. The lawyer's voice came through clearly. "With guardianship, you'd have power over all her property, her house, her savings, her pension, everything. And she can't fight back. Not if she's legally declared incompetent." Lisa actually laughed out loud. "Oh, she won't be any trouble. Most of the time she doesn't even know what month it is." That was a complete lie. I know exactly what day it is. I know what year it is. I know what they're trying to steal from me. But they had no idea what I was planning to take back. The psychological warfare started with small cruelties. Death by 1,000 cuts, as they say. Lisa would forget to give me phone messages on purpose. "Oh, your friend Janet called yesterday. I told her you were too tired to talk." Janet Wilson, my old nursing supervisor. We talked every Tuesday for 20 years until Lisa started blocking my calls. She rearranged my medications without permission. "I organized these in a better way for you, Margaret." My military training meant I'd taken the same pills at the same times for years. Her reorganizing confused my routine completely. Then she'd point at my confusion as proof of mental decline. "See, David. She can't even remember her pill schedule anymore." But the cruelest cuts were the tiny ones. I'd reach for the pepper at dinner. Lisa would move it away. "Too much pepper isn't healthy for someone your age, Margaret. I'm 65, not 105, and I've been seasoning my own food since before she was born." When I'd say something, she'd use that voice parents use with toddlers. "I know it's frustrating, but we're just keeping you safe." She started talking about me like I wasn't in the room. To David, to her friends, to repair people who came to fix things in the house. "She has good moments and bad moments," she'd tell the plumber while I sat 15 feet away. "Today's a good moment." The plumber would look at me with sad eyes. This sharp, alert woman clearly listening to every word, being discussed like a dementia patient. I started keeping a notebook too. Every incident, every humiliation, every lie. March 8th, Lisa told the mail carrier I can't handle steps anymore. I walked 3 miles that morning. March 15th, overheard her tell her sister I wander around lost at night. I was checking door locks, same routine I've done for 30 years. March 22nd, she cancelled my subscription to Nursing Journal without asking. "You weren't reading it anyway." I read every issue cover to cover, but the medical interference scared me most. At my regular checkup, Lisa insisted on coming into the exam room. She sat next to Dr. Rodriguez's desk like she was my legal guardian. "She's been having memory problems," Lisa told my doctor. "Forgetting names, getting confused about where she is. Last week she didn't remember how to use the coffee maker." Lies. My memory is excellent. I know every room in this house, and I've made coffee the same way for 40 years. Dr. Rodriguez looked puzzled. "Margaret, are you having memory trouble?" "No, I'm not," I said firmly. Lisa interrupted quickly. "She doesn't always realize when she's confused. It's part of her condition." "What condition?" I wanted to yell. But Lisa's confidence was so complete, so convincing that even my doctor started writing notes. That's when I knew how truly dangerous she was. She wasn't just taking my dignity at home. She was building a fake medical case to prove incompetence. After that visit, I called Dr. Rodriguez privately from my locked bedroom. "Doctor, I need to tell you something important. Lisa's reports about my memory are completely false. I'm mentally sharp. Can prove it. Dr. Rodriguez listened carefully to everything. Margaret, your cognitive tests today showed no problems at all. Your answers were clear, appropriate, and intelligent. I'm going to put this phone call in your records. But Lisa's campaign didn't stop. She started having her friends come over for dinner parties. Not my friends. Mine were too stressful for me to be around, she said. Her dental assistant friends, David's co-workers from the bank. I tried joining conversations. Tell a story from my nursing days overseas. Share an opinion about current news. Lisa would cut me off mid-sentence. Margaret's military stories get a little jumbled up sometimes, she'd say with a fake sad smile. But we love hearing them anyway. The guests would look at me with that mixture of pity and awkwardness people show around the elderly mentally ill. My stories weren't jumbled. My memory is perfect. But Lisa's warning poisoned every word I spoke. She'd do it in front of David constantly. He'd get home from the bank and I'd try telling him about my day. Lisa would catch his eye and tap her head, silently mouthing "bad day." David would nod like he understood everything. "That's nice, Mom. Maybe you should rest now." I wasn't having a bad day. I was having a normal day in an abnormal prison. The isolation was planned and systematic. Phone calls blocked, mail redirected, friendships cut off. She was erasing me from my own life one connection at a time. But the cruelest moment came when she found my walking shoes. I'd been secretly exercising every morning at 5:30 while they slept, walking 4 miles through the neighborhood. It was the only time I felt like myself. Strong, capable, free. Lisa discovered my muddy shoes by the back door one morning. "Margaret, were you outside in your nightgown again?" she asked David right in front of me. "I'm worried she's wandering around confused." "I went for a walk," I said clearly. Lisa's face showed exaggerated concern. "Honey, you can barely make it to the mailbox. You must have dreamed it." She hid my walking shoes that same day. "For your safety," she explained. That night I heard her on the phone with David's brother in Texas. "I'm really scared about Margaret," Lisa said. "She's having delusions about being physically active. Yesterday she swore she walked 4 miles. Breaks my heart. She wasn't just lying about what I could do. She was convincing my entire family I was mentally sick." But what Lisa didn't realize was that I'd already bought new walking shoes. And I'd been training for something that would prove exactly how capable I really was. The Hospital Charity 5K Walk. April 20th, my 45th anniversary of becoming a nurse. I wasn't just going to walk it. I was going to finish in the top 10 for my age group. And she was going to watch me do it. Every morning at 5:30 while Lisa and David slept, I became myself again. I'd slip out through the back door in my new walking shoes, hidden in the garden shed behind the rakes, and walk the neighborhood streets. 4 miles, same route every day, building speed and endurance. Not bad for a confused old lady who supposedly can't remember how to make coffee. The Hospital Charity 5K was 6 weeks away. Registration needed medical clearance, proof of nursing background, and a qualifying time. Had everything. Dr. Rodriguez signed my medical form with enthusiasm. "Margaret, your heart health is outstanding. Your fitness level matches someone 20 years younger." My nursing credentials proved my 40 years of service. Active duty Air Force, honorable discharge, medals for field nursing under combat conditions. And my qualifying time, 15-minute miles, fast enough to place well in the 65-plus age group. Lisa thought I needed help putting on my shoes. I was training to race against nurses from hospitals across 3 counties. But walking was just part of my plan. I'd reconnected with my old unit, not through Facebook where Lisa might see, but through the Veterans of Foreign Wars chapter. These weren't casual friends from book club. These were sister bonds forged in field hospitals. Patricia Moore, my lawyer, Sandra Martinez, now a hospital administrator, Beth Thompson, chief nursing officer at County General, Gloria Washington, State Veteran Services Director, and 8 others from our Gulf Warfield Hospital unit. All successful, all still connected, all wondering why I'd disappeared for nearly a year. "Margaret, where have you been?" Sandra asked when I called her secretly from my locked bedroom. "We thought something terrible happened to you." I explained everything carefully. Professional women understand evidence and patterns. They understand manipulation when they see it. My God, Margaret, that's textbook elder abuse. Classic financial exploitation. No. I'm documenting everything now. What do you need from us? Witnesses. When this becomes public, I need people who know who I really am. You've got it, sister. Every phone call revealed more of Lisa's deception. My nursing friends had been trying to reach me for months. Birthday cards returned unopened. Invitations ignored. They'd called my house and been told I was too unwell for visitors. Gloria Washington was especially angry. "Margaret, I've been trying to schedule your annual Veterans Benefits Review for 8 months. Someone kept canceling your appointments. My annual benefits review determines my medical coverage and pension adjustments. Missing it could reduce my benefits by thousands of dollars." Lisa had been sabotaging my veteran income while planning to steal it. But the most important call was to my old commanding officer, now Colonel Rebecca Hayes. "Lieutenant Chen," she said when she recognized my voice. The respect in her tone reminded me of who I used to be, who I still was. "Colonel, I need advice about a family situation involving financial exploitation." Colonel Hayes listened to everything without interrupting. Her response was military sharp and precise. "Margaret, you're being targeted because predators see veteran benefits and assume vulnerability. It's a calculated pattern. You need to reassert your authority." "How do I do that?" "Remind them who they're dealing with and surround yourself with your unit when you do it." "Yes, ma'am." "One more thing, Margaret. The hospital charity 5K is April 20th. Are you walking?" "Planning on it, ma'am." "Excellent. I'll be there. Wouldn't miss watching you show these young nurses how it's done." I hung up feeling something I hadn't felt in almost a year. Pride in myself. That afternoon, Lisa found me in the kitchen looking at bank statements. "Margaret, you shouldn't stress yourself with those complicated numbers," she said, reaching for the papers. "Let me handle the financial worry." I held the statements firmly away from her. "I'm reviewing my investment performance. 14% this year." Lisa looked annoyed and surprised. "You're getting confused again, Margaret. Those are just random numbers you don't understand." Random numbers. $480,000 in carefully managed retirement savings was random numbers to her. "Lisa," I said calmly and clearly, "I managed field hospital budgets bigger than this during wartime. I think I can handle my own investment portfolio." She left the kitchen without another word. But I saw her texting David frantically on her phone. "Your mother's having another episode." Episode. That was her new favorite word for any moment when I showed competence. 5 weeks until the 5K. 5 weeks until my unit reunion. 5 weeks until Lisa learned what an actual episode looked like. David's 38th birthday fell on a Saturday in April. Lisa had been planning it for weeks, But her version of planning meant taking over my house like she owned it. "We're hosting here," she announced one morning. Not asked, announced. "How many people?" Asked her. "Around 25. My friends from the dental office, David's bank co-workers, some neighbors." Notice what was missing from her guest list. My friends, my nursing colleagues, the people who'd known David since he was a baby. What about Patricia Moore? Sandra Martinez? David grew up calling them Aunt Pat and Aunt Sandy. Lisa waved her hand dismissively. "Margaret, those old military nurses are too intense for a birthday party. This is supposed to be fun and relaxing." Too intense. My sister nurses who'd held my hand through 3 overseas deployments, who'd taught David to ride a bike, who'd celebrated every birthday until this year. They were too intense for his party. "Plus," Lisa continued, "we don't want to overwhelm you with too many people around." There it was again. Her favorite excuse for controlling everything. It was always about not overwhelming poor, fragile Margaret. The morning of the party, I dressed carefully. Clean navy slacks, my favorite blouse with my nursing corps pin on the collar, comfortable shoes. I looked like what I was, a retired military nurse attending her son's birthday. Lisa saw me and frowned immediately. "Margaret, honey, maybe wear something more casual. You look a bit too formal and dressed up." I was wearing slacks and a blouse to a backyard birthday party, but apparently showing pride in my nursing service was too formal. "I'm fine like this," I said. "Well, try not to dominate conversations tonight, okay? David's friends don't really relate to old military hospital stories. Don't dominate conversations." Translation was clear. Don't speak unless someone asks you a direct question. The guests started arriving at 6 o'clock. Lisa's dental hygienist co-workers, David's bank colleagues, a few neighbors I barely knew, young professionals with expensive clothes and craft beer. I tried being social, introducing myself to David's co-workers, asking about their jobs at the bank, making appropriate small talk, but Lisa was always hovering nearby, managing every interaction I had. When I mentioned my Air Force nursing career to a young woman asking about my PIN, Lisa appeared out of nowhere instantly. "Margaret loves talking about her military days," she said with that fake patient smile. "Sometimes the details get a little mixed up after so many years, but the stories are sweet." The young woman looked uncomfortable and awkward. I looked humiliated and small. My 40 years of service was being dismissed as confused, sweet stories. But the real breaking point came during dinner. David was opening birthday cards and gifts. Everyone gathered around the patio table in my backyard. Someone asked about family traditions and memories, and I saw my chance to connect. When David was 9, I taught him basic first aid. He was so proud of learning how to wrap bandages that he practiced on all his stuffed animals. It was a true, happy memory. David had been fascinated by my nursing skills, and I'd spent hours teaching him proper bandage techniques. His stuffed animal hospital covered his entire bedroom floor. Parents at school loved it. But Lisa couldn't let me finish my own story. "Margaret, honey," she interrupted loudly, "nobody can understand you properly. You're mumbling and your words are slurred." My words weren't slurred at all. I'd been speaking clearly and normally. I checked my medication before the party. Everything was fine and normal. But Lisa's interruption killed the story completely and made me look like a confused, elderly woman with speech problems. The guests looked embarrassed for me. That was the worst part of everything. Their pity. David didn't defend me or stand up for me. He just looked tired and uncomfortable. "Mom, maybe we should focus on the present moment instead of the past." Focus on the present. Code words for stop talking about memories. I felt something crack deep inside my chest. Not my heart exactly, but my patience. 30 minutes later, the real humiliation started. The patio was crowded with guests. People standing around with drinks and plates, voices getting louder as the evening went on. I was sitting in my usual chair in my house, when David walked over to me. "Mom, we're running low on seating. Would you mind giving your chair to Mrs. Patterson?" Mrs. Patterson was the 75-year-old neighbor. I would have happily given my chair to her. But David didn't ask me to move to a different chair. He asked me to give up my place at the party entirely. Where should I sit instead? Asked him. David looked around vaguely and uncertainly. Maybe go inside. You could watch TV or rest on the couch. Watch TV at my son's birthday party in my own house. I'd like to stay out here with everyone, I said calmly. That's when Lisa made her fatal, terrible mistake. She'd been drinking wine all evening. Her voice was louder than normal, her filter completely gone. The conversations had quieted down and her words carried across the entire patio clearly. David honestly just let her sleep on the couch inside. She naps constantly anyway. She won't even know the difference between day and night. Complete total silence. 25 guests staring, some looking shocked and horrified, others looking away in embarrassment. Everyone witnessing my daughter-in-law dismiss me like a piece of old furniture. She won't know the difference. Like I was some senile patient in a nursing home, not the homeowner paying for their celebration. David looked mortified and embarrassed, but he didn't correct her. He didn't defend his mother. He just stood there frozen, hoping the moment would disappear. But the moment crystallized everything perfectly. Nearly a year of condescension, manipulation, humiliation, and systematic abuse condensed into one public sentence. I stood up very slowly and deliberately. Every guest was watching me now. Lisa, I said quietly but clearly, this is my house. I know, Margaret, but my house, my chair, my party that I'm paying for to celebrate my son. Lisa's face flushed red. She realized her mistake finally, but pride wouldn't let her back down. You're getting upset over nothing at all. We're just trying to make everyone comfortable here. Make everyone comfortable except the woman who owns the house and pays all the bills. David finally found his voice nervously. Mom, let's not make a big scene right now. Make a scene. I was being told to leave my own party and I was making a scene by objecting. But I didn't yell or argue. I did something much more powerful and dangerous. Smiled. You know what, Lisa? You're absolutely right about everything. I should let you handle all the hosting duties. After all, you've been making so many decisions about my life for months now. My voice, I'm going to make some phone calls. Please everyone, enjoy the party in my house that I own completely with my money that I saved. Lisa's eyes flashed with anger. Margaret, you're embarrassing yourself in front of everyone. Am I? Let's see who ends up embarrassed by tomorrow. I walked inside calmly, pulled out my phone, and made the call that would change absolutely everything. Patricia, it's Margaret. Tomorrow is game day. Gather the unit. Through the kitchen window, I could see Lisa trying to recover with the guests outside, explaining how difficult I'd become lately and recently. David was apologizing for my behavior. But in 18 hours, she'd discover exactly how difficult a military nurse could be when pushed too far, and she'd learn it in front of a much bigger audience than a birthday party. Sunday morning arrived gray and quiet. Lisa and David were nursing hangovers from last night's party, barely speaking to me over coffee in my kitchen. The silent treatment was perfectly fine with me. I had preparations to make. At 10 a.m., I started rearranging furniture in the living room, pushing the couch back against the wall, arranging chairs in a big circle, setting up the coffee table for documents and papers. What are you doing? Lisa asked, sounding annoyed. I'm expecting company this afternoon. What company? You didn't tell us anyone was coming over today. I looked at her directly and calmly. I don't need permission to have guests in my own house that I own. Lisa's face tightened with anger. Margaret, we have plans today. David and I were going to look at open houses in better neighborhoods. Look at houses. With my money, no doubt. The money they thought they'd be controlling very soon. Look at all the houses you want, but this afternoon I'm having visitors here. David appeared in the doorway. Mom, what visitors? You should have asked us first before inviting people. Should have asked permission in my own home for my own guests. Nursing unit reunion, I said simply. 40 years of sisterhood. They're driving here to see their old lieutenant. Lisa actually laughed out loud. Margaret, your old nursing friends don't want to drive all this way to see you. You're imagining things again like always. Imagining things. That was her newest favorite dismissive phrase. We'll see about that, I said calmly. At noon exactly, the first car pulled into my driveway. Patricia Moore's black Mercedes, then Sandra Martinez's silver Lexus, then Beth Thompson's blue Honda. Lisa watched through the window, her confidence starting to crack and crumble. Who are all these people? My nurses. By 12:30, my driveway was completely full. 11 vehicles, 22 people, nurses and their partners. These weren't confused old veterans stumbling around in outdated clothes. These were successful professionals in their 50s and 60s, arriving like they owned the world because in many ways they absolutely did. Patricia Moore stepped out first. Tailored pantsuit, leather briefcase, the bearing of someone who'd won major court cases, because she had. Sandra Martinez followed right behind. Hospital administrator for County General, managing 800 employees and $75 million budgets. Beth Thompson emerged wearing her chief nursing officer credentials around her neck. She controlled nursing staff and standards for the entire county. Gloria Washington arrived in an official Veterans Affairs vehicle, her state director identification visible through the windshield. She managed veteran services for 12 counties. And finally, Colonel Rebecca Hayes stepped out of a military vehicle wearing her dress uniform. Silver oak leaf clusters gleaming on her shoulders, ribbons covering her chest, the kind of presence that made everyone instinctively straighten up. Lisa stared through my window, her mouth hanging open. Margaret, who are these people exactly? Told you clearly. My nurses. David appeared beside her nervously. Mom, you didn't say they were, you said nursing friends, but what, David? You thought they'd be broken down old ladies in nurse shoes. I opened my front door before anyone could knock. Patricia stepped forward first, and her greeting reminded me of who I used to be. Lieutenant Chen. She stood at attention briefly, then broke into a warm smile. Permission to come aboard, ma'am. Granted, counselor. All of you welcome home. They filed into my living room like they owned the place. Because for the next 3 hours they absolutely did. These weren't social visits for tea and cookies. These were nurses reporting to their former commanding officer. Lisa and David hovered in the doorway, clearly uncomfortable, unable to leave their own house. Well, unable to leave my house. Colonel Hayes took charge naturally, as colonels always do. Margaret, we've missed you at the reunions badly. Where have you been hiding yourself? I've been right here, ma'am, dealing with some complicated family situations. Gloria Washington's eyes narrowed sharply. As State Veterans Director, she recognized elder abuse instantly when she saw it. What kind of complications exactly, Margaret? Before I could answer, Lisa stepped forward bravely. She was trying to regain control, but she was completely out of her league now. I'm Lisa, Margaret's daughter-in-law. We've been taking care of her since her fall last year. She's been well, she has good days and bad days honestly. The room went completely, utterly silent. 22 nurses and family members staring at the woman who just called their former commanding officer incompetent. Sandra Martinez spoke first, her hospital administrator voice carrying authority. Ma'am, I've known Lieutenant Chen for 35 years. She's one of the sharpest nurses I've ever worked with. What exactly are these bad days you're talking about? Lisa sensed danger now but couldn't back down. Well, she gets confused sometimes, forgets things. Yesterday she claimed she could walk 5 miles straight. Colonel Hayes raised an eyebrow. Walk 5 miles. Margaret, are you maintaining physical fitness standards? Yes, ma'am. Training for the hospital charity 5K next week. Outstanding work. What's your current pace? 15-minute miles consistently. The nurses erupted in appreciation and applause. At 65, I was walking faster than people half my age. Lisa looked confused and shocked. This wasn't the response she expected to my delusions. Beth Thompson leaned forward seriously. Lisa, you said Margaret forgets things. Can you be more specific about that? She can't manage her finances anymore properly. We've had to take over her bills, her bank accounts, everything. Patricia Moore's expression went ice cold. Ma'am, Are you saying you've assumed control of Lieutenant Chen's financial assets? Someone had to do it. She's not competent to stop. Patricia's voice carried courtroom weight. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to be very careful. Gloria Washington pulled out her phone quickly. Margaret, what's your VA benefits number? I recited the 9-digit number perfectly from memory. Gloria typed rapidly, then looked up. According to Veterans Affairs medical records, Lieutenant Chen passed her annual competency review with perfect scores. Cognitive function completely normal. Financial management capability fully competent. No indicators whatsoever of mental decline. Lisa's face went completely white. That's not what her doctor told us. Which doctor exactly? Colonel Hayes asked, because veterans have specific medical protections under federal law. Dr. Rodriguez at County Medical, Lisa said weakly. I pulled out my phone and played the recording clearly. Dr. Rodriguez's voice filled my living room. Margaret, your cognitive tests show absolutely no problems. You're one of my healthiest, sharpest patients. Lisa's lie collapsed in real time. In front of federal employees, hospital administrators, and a full colonel. But I wasn't finished yet. Colonel Hayes, Patricia, everyone, I need witnesses for something important. I walked to my file cabinet and pulled out a thick folder, bank statements, investment reports, property deeds, Lisa's notebook screenshots, recorded conversations. For nearly a year, I've been systematically defrauded by people I trusted completely. They've isolated me from friends, intercepted my mail and calls, made false medical claims, and attempted to steal my assets through fraudulent guardianship. Patricia opened her briefcase immediately. Margaret, show me everything you have. I spread the evidence across my coffee table like a battle plan. The notebook pages where Lisa called me mentally gone. The recorded conversation about selling my house for an upgrade. The intercepted mail and messages. The cancelled medical appointments. Colonel Hayes studied the documents with military precision and focus. Lieutenant, this is elder abuse. Textbook financial exploitation of a disabled veteran. Yes, ma'am. And it's about to stop completely. Lisa tried one last desperate move. You can't believe her stories. She's confused and making things up. Colonel Hayes stood up straight. When a full colonel stands up in your living room, smart people pay attention immediately. Ma'am, I've reviewed the evidence personally. Text messages, recordings, medical records, financial documents. This isn't confusion at all. This is documentation. And what you've done isn't caregiving. It's criminal behavior. David finally found his voice nervously. Mom, I didn't know it would go this far. David, you're my son, but you let your wife convince you I was incompetent and senile. You stopped listening to me and started listening only to her lies. Ashley's control shattered completely now. This is completely insane. She's a sick old woman. You're all enabling her delusions and fantasies. That's when Gloria Washington delivered the knockout punch. Ma'am, I'm Gloria Washington, Virginia State Veterans Services Director. Based on what I've witnessed here today, I'm initiating an immediate elder abuse investigation. And if you continue claiming that a decorated military nurse is delusional, I'll add harassment of a disabled veteran to the federal charges. Lisa realized suddenly she was facing real federal officials. Real authority, real consequences, real prison time. But the best part was still coming next. I stood up in my living room, surrounded by my nurses, and felt something I hadn't felt in nearly a year. Command, presence, and authority. Lisa, David, I need you both to listen very carefully to what happens next. Colonel Hayes nodded to me. Lieutenant, you have the floor. For almost a year, you've both treated me like an incompetent burden and embarrassment. You've made decisions about my life, my house, my health, and my finances without my permission or consent. You've lied to my doctors, intercepted my communications, and isolated me from my friends and colleagues. You thought you were dealing with a helpless old woman who wouldn't fight back. I gestured to the nurses filling my entire living room. You weren't at all. Patricia Morrison opened her briefcase and pulled out official legal documents. Lisa Williams, this is a cease and desist order. You are hereby prohibited from accessing Margaret Chen's financial accounts, scheduling her medical appointments, or representing yourself as her caretaker or legal guardian in any capacity. Lisa's face went deathly pale. You can't do this to us. We live here. We take care of her daily. Colonel Hayes pulled out her own documents. Ma'am, we have a court order freezing any guardianship proceedings pending investigation of elder abuse allegations. Your attempt to gain power of attorney through false competency claims is documented fraud under federal law. This is completely insane, Lisa said, but her voice was shaking badly now. Gloria Washington stepped forward with her paperwork. I've also initiated a Veterans Affairs investigation into interference with veteran benefits and services. Canceling Lieutenant Chen's medical appointments and misrepresenting her mental state to federal agencies carries serious criminal penalties, including prison time. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Everyone, I want to show you all something important. I walked to my bedroom and changed quickly. When I came back out, I was wearing my hospital charity 5K race shirt, race number 156, my name and age group clearly printed. Chen Margaret, F65+. Lisa told everyone yesterday that I'm delusional about walking and exercising. She said I can barely make it to the mailbox without help. David, you've heard her say I'm too weak for any physical activity at all. I pulled on my walking shoes, the ones Lisa didn't know existed, the ones I'd hidden in the garden shed. Colonel Hayes, would you like to see exactly how weak I really am? Absolutely, Lieutenant. Lead the way. The entire group moved to my backyard together. 22 witnesses, half of them federal employees, following a 65-year-old woman Lisa had called physically incompetent and weak. I walked to my back fence. Exactly 2 miles to the community center and back, a measured course I'd been walking for months in secret training. Lisa, David, you're about to see who I really am underneath your lies. I started walking fast, not strolling slowly, walking. 15-minute mile pace, the same speed I'd maintained in training every morning. Behind me, I could hear Colonel Hayes calling out encouragement. You've got this, Lieutenant. Show them what nurses are made of. The other nurses joined in, their voices carrying across my neighborhood. My neighbors, the same ones who'd heard Lisa call me fragile and weak, came out to watch everything. I walked with military precision and discipline. Controlled breathing, steady pace, perfect form maintained throughout. This wasn't an old woman struggling to exercise weekly. This was a nurse demonstrating maintained fitness standards proudly. 2 miles in 29 minutes. I finished in my driveway, breathing normally, barely winded, while Lisa stared in complete shock. Any questions at all about my physical capabilities? Asked clearly. Lisa's mouth opened and closed without any sound coming out. David looked like he'd seen a ghost. But the evidence presentation was still coming. Back in my living room, I spread out my financial documents for everyone to see clearly. Bank statements, investment reports, property deeds, everything Lisa thought she'd be controlling soon. Patricia, please read the account balances out loud for everyone. Patricia Morrison, attorney and former military lawyer, read like she was presenting evidence to a jury. Checking account $23,847. Savings account $31,205. Investment account $481,392. Property value $418,000, zero debt or liens. Lisa's face went completely white. She'd known I had money saved, but seeing the actual numbers read aloud by an attorney made the attempted theft completely real. Total net worth, Patricia continued professionally. Approximately $875,000 plus monthly pension income. Colonel Hayes looked at Lisa with military coldness. Ma'am, you attempted to gain guardianship over nearly $1 million in assets belonging to a fully competent veteran. That's not just elder abuse. That's federal fraud. Beth Thompson pulled out her phone. Margaret, as chief nursing officer, I'm required to report attempted fraud against healthcare veterans. This case will be forwarded to the appropriate state authorities. Sandra Martinez added, and as hospital administrator, I'm documenting this for the county healthcare fraud database. Your name will be flagged across the entire system. But Gloria Washington delivered the final devastating blow. Lieutenant Chen, based on today's evidence, I'm recommending criminal charges for elder abuse, financial exploitation, and interference with veteran benefits and services. The penalties include federal prison time and permanent loss of access to the victim. Lisa finally found her voice desperately. This is crazy and wrong. We were helping her. We moved in because she needed our help badly. I pulled out my final piece of evidence, the recording from Lisa's phone call with the attorney about liquidating all my assets. Lisa's voice filled my living room clearly. Once we get guardianship approved, we can sell this house and upgrade to something better. Silence. Complete, total, damning silence. Colonel Hayes stood at attention. Lieutenant Chen, you have command authority over this residence. What are your orders? I looked at Lisa, then at David. My son looked ashamed, finally understanding what his wife had tried to do to his mother. Lisa, David, you have exactly 48 hours to pack your belongings and leave my house permanently. All financial access is terminated immediately and forever. All decision-making authority is revoked permanently and completely. Lisa's composure finally cracked wide open. You can't kick us out. David is your son. Your only child. Connor will always be my son, but he chose to enable your theft instead of defending his mother. That choice has serious consequences. I turned to my nurses. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you for restoring my command and authority. Dismissed. As they filed out, each nurse stopped to shake my hand firmly. Not the handshake you give an old woman. The handshake you give a fellow warrior. See you at the 5K, Lieutenant. Colonel Hayes said, welcome back to the unit. Monday morning brought consequences that rippled through Lisa's life like earthquake aftershocks. At 9 a.m., 2 federal investigators arrived at my door. Not for me, for Lisa. Financial crimes against veterans fall under federal jurisdiction. Agent Thompson showed his credentials. Ms. Chen, we're here about the elder abuse complaint filed by the State Veterans Director. We need to interview all parties involved. Lisa sat in my kitchen, still my kitchen though not for much longer, facing federal agents across the table where she'd once condescended to me about managing my own money. Ma'am, we have recordings of you discussing liquidation of the victim's assets without her consent. Can you explain these conversations? Lisa's attempts at explanation crumbled under professional interrogation. The agents had heard it all before. Family members who convinced themselves that stealing from elderly relatives was somehow justified. She needed help badly, Lisa insisted desperately. She was confused, forgetful, unable to manage. Agent Rodriguez interrupted. Ma'am, we have medical records confirming the alleged victim's full competency. We have testimony from federal employees who witnessed her cognitive abilities firsthand. Your claims of confusion appear to be completely fabricated. By noon, Lisa faced potential criminal charges: elder abuse, financial exploitation, fraud, and interference with veteran benefits. David sat beside her, realizing that his passive enablement might carry legal consequences too. But the federal investigation was just the beginning. At 2 p.m., Lisa's supervisor from the dental practice called my house. Margaret, this is Dr. Stephen Parker from Lisa's dental office. We've received very concerning reports about elder abuse allegations. Can you confirm that Lisa Williams is facing federal charges? I could have protected Lisa's employment, could have minimized the situation. Instead, I told the complete truth. Dr. Parker, Lisa attempted to gain fraudulent guardianship over my assets while claiming I was mentally incompetent. Federal agents are investigating. She's facing possible prison time. Silence on the phone line. Then, thank you for your honesty, Margaret. We'll handle this appropriately. Lisa lost her job within 2 hours. Dental practices can't employ people under federal investigation for elder abuse. Patient trust, professional standards, state licensing requirements. Lisa's career vanished as quickly as her scheme. But the social consequences were even more devastating. David's bank colleagues had attended his birthday party. They'd witnessed Lisa's public humiliation of me, heard her dismissive comments about my capabilities. When word spread about the federal investigation, David's professional reputation took a direct hit. Banking is built on trust. When colleagues discover your wife tried to defraud your disabled veteran mother, that trust evaporates. David's boss, Mr. Richard Chen, called Tuesday morning. David, we need to discuss the situation with your family. Our bank serves many veterans. They're asking questions about your judgment and character. David realized that enabling Lisa's abuse hadn't just cost him his mother's respect. It was costing him his career. By Wednesday, the entire neighborhood knew everything. 22 nurses and their families had witnessed Lisa's downfall. In a community that honors veterans, word traveled fast. Mrs. Patterson, the 75-year-old neighbor Lisa had used to humiliate me, stopped by with homemade soup. Margaret, I heard what that woman did to you. I'm so sorry we didn't see it sooner. She was very convincing, Mrs. Patterson. Well, she's not fooling anyone now. The whole neighborhood is talking about those federal investigators. Good for you for standing up to her. The social isolation Lisa had imposed on me reversed completely. Neighbors who'd been told I was declining now saw me walking every morning, maintaining my house, clearly competent and independent. Lisa's version of reality, the confused, helpless veteran who needed constant supervision, collapsed publicly. But the cruelest consequence was the loss of family support. David's sister, Rachel, called from Oregon after hearing about the investigation. Mom, I'm so sorry. Lisa told us you were getting dementia. She said David was sacrificing everything to take care of you. We had no idea she was lying. Rachel, sweetheart, I'm fine. I've always been fine. I can't believe David let this happen. I can't believe we believed her lies about you. David overheard the conversation, watched his family turn against his wife, question his judgment. The son who'd wanted to please everyone had pleased no one. Thursday morning I found David packing boxes in the garage. Mom, I don't know how to apologize for this. David, you chose to trust someone who was lying about me. You stopped seeing me as your mother and started seeing me as Lisa's burden. I thought we were helping you. Helping. Or were you planning to inherit my house earlier than expected? David's face crumpled. I never wanted this to happen. But you let it happen. For nearly a year, you watched her treat me like an incompetent child, and you said nothing. What can I do to fix this? I looked at my son, unemployed, facing potential criminal charges, married to a woman under federal investigation, estranged from his sister and mother. You can learn the difference between helping someone and controlling them, and you can make sure this never happens to another family. Friday afternoon, exactly 48 hours after my ultimatum, Lisa and David loaded their last boxes into a moving truck. Lisa's final words to me were predictably bitter. You'll regret this, Margaret. You'll be alone and you'll need help, and we won't be here. Lisa, I said calmly, I was alone for nearly a year while you lived in my house. Being actually alone will be an improvement. She slammed the truck door and drove away, taking David with her. I watched from my front porch, surrounded by the neighbors who'd learned the truth about who I really was. Alone but not isolated. Quiet but not silenced. Free. 2 weeks later, I walked the hospital charity 5K in downtown Richmond. Not only did I finish, I placed third in my age group, 65 years old, beating women 20 years younger, proving that Lisa's narrative about my physical decline was as false as everything else she'd said about me. Colonel Hayes presented my medal personally. Lieutenant Chen, you've shown that nurses never retire. We just change duty stations. The medal meant Lisa had called my nursing career outdated and irrelevant. I turned it into a qualification for helping other veterans. David called on Mother's Day. His voice sounded different, humbler, sadder, older. Mom, Lisa and I separated. She's facing trial in July. I'm living in a small apartment, working at a different bank. I'm sorry to hear about your troubles, son. Are you really? I considered the question honestly. I'm sorry you're suffering. I'm not sorry you're learning consequences. Could I come visit sometime? David, you'll always be my son, but you'll never again be welcome to make decisions about my life. Understand? Do you? Because understanding means more than just accepting. It means making sure this never happens to another family. I'm volunteering with the Elder Abuse Prevention Group, sharing our story, warning other families about the signs. That was something. Not forgiveness but purpose. I hung up and called Patricia Moore. Patricia, you free for lunch Sunday? I'm making my famous lasagna. Absolutely, Margaret. I'll bring the wine. Sunday lunch with nurses who treated me like a leader instead of a burden. A veteran center full of nurses who respected my service. Ms. Williams, you targeted a decorated veteran who'd served this country honorably. You exploited her trust, manipulated her son, and attempted to steal her life savings. You'll spend the next 3 years making amends. I attended the sentencing. Not for revenge but for closure. Lisa looked smaller somehow, diminished. When our eyes met across the courtroom, I saw something I'd never seen before. Shame. After the hearing, Patricia pulled me aside. Margaret, the restitution money. What will you do with it? Already knew. Donate it to the Nurses Helping Nurses Center. Let Lisa's theft fund prevention for other veterans. Perfect. November 15th marked 1 year since my rebellion began. 1 year since the birthday party humiliation. 1 year since I'd made the call that changed everything. My nursing unit organized a celebration at my house. Not a somber memorial, but a joyful reunion. 22 nurses, their families, plus 40 veterans we'd helped through the center. My backyard overflowed with people who saw me as I truly was. Colonel Hayes raised a toast to Lieutenant Margaret Chen, who taught us that strength isn't about never falling. It's about standing back up and helping others do the same. The cheers echoed across my neighborhood. Mrs. Patterson called from her porch. That's the Margaret we always knew was there. David attended too. I'd invited him. Not to my inner circle but to the periphery. He spent the afternoon helping veterans with wheelchair access, listening to their stories, learning. Around sunset, he approached me quietly. Mom, thank you for letting me be here. You're still my son, David. That doesn't change. But trust has to be rebuilt slowly. Understand. I'm trying to be worthy of rebuilding it. That evening, after everyone left, I sat on my porch with Patricia. We've come a long way, she said. We've reminded people that veterans don't become helpless just because we age. Speaking of aging, Patricia grinned. I heard you're registered for next year's 10K. Not just registered. Training to place first in my age group. That's my girl. As darkness fell, I looked at my house. My name on the deed. My furniture arranged how I wanted. My life under my control. The Veteran Support Center in my basement helped 3 more people that week. Financial abuse victims finding their voice, reclaiming their dignity, remembering their strength. December brought the holidays. Different from last year but better. David came for Christmas dinner. Just the 2 of us, quiet conversation, careful boundaries. He brought a gift wrapped simply. A framed photo of me in my Air Force uniform, age 23, standing proud in my dress blues. I found this in your basement, he said softly. I wanted you to remember who you've always been. I never forgot, David. That was the problem. You and Lisa did. No. I'm spending the rest of my life making sure I never forget again. We ate dinner peacefully. Not the relationship we'd once had, but an honest one built on truth instead of illusion. After he left, I hung the photo in my living room. Right next to my nursing medals, my veteran certificates, my recent 5K placement award. A visual timeline of strength maintained across 40 years. New Year's Eve arrived quietly. No big party, just my nursing sisters gathered in my living room. We're starting a new decade, Sandra said. What's your resolution, Margaret? Thought carefully. To make sure my story helps prevent others. To use my experience as education. To prove that aging veterans deserve respect, not robbery. Patricia raised her glass. To Margaret Chin, who turned victimization into advocacy. The glasses clinked. Through my window, I could see fireworks exploding over the city. Each burst of light felt symbolic. Darkness shattered. Hope restored. Strength reclaimed. January brought a phone call I never expected. This is Barbara Mitchell from the Department of Veterans Affairs in Washington. We'd like to invite you to testify before Congress about elder abuse of veterans. Me. Testify before Congress. Your case has become a blueprint for identifying and preventing financial exploitation. Your combination of documentation, self-advocacy, and community building represents best practices. We want to make your approach national policy. Accepted immediately. February found me in Washington, D.C., sitting before a congressional committee, my nursing uniform pressed sharp, my evidence binders organized perfectly. Committee members listened as I detailed the systematic abuse. The isolation tactics, the false medical claims, the financial manipulation, the psychological warfare. But I also detailed the resistance. The secret documentation, the physical training, the legal preparation, the unit mobilization. I didn't wait for rescue. I refused to be a victim. Congressman Rodriguez leaned forward. Ms. Chen, what policy changes would prevent cases like yours? 3 things. First, mandatory annual competency assessments for all veterans, conducted by VA professionals, not family members. Second, federal database tracking guardianship filings to identify patterns of serial exploitation. Third, criminal penalties for family members who file false incompetency claims. The committee took notes furiously. 6 months later, the Margaret Chan Protection Act passed unanimously. Named after me. A military nurse who'd refused to surrender. The legislation required everything I'd recommended. Plus funding for veteran advocacy centers nationwide. Lisa's attempted theft had accidentally created protection for thousands of veterans. March brought speaking invitations from across the country. Veterans groups, nursing conferences, elder law seminars. Each audience heard the same message. Age doesn't equal incompetence. Disability doesn't mean helplessness. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. April 20th arrived. 2 years since the charity 5K. 2 years since I'd publicly proven my physical capability. This year's race felt different. Not proving anything to anyone. Just celebrating what my body could still do. I walked with 30 veterans from the center. Ages ranging from 62 to 84. Abilities varying widely. Some used walkers, some wheelchairs, some walked independently. We crossed the finish line together. Not racing against each other, but moving forward as a unit. Colonel Hayes met us at the finish. Look at what you've built, Margaret. A community of veterans refusing to be dismissed. This isn't just about you anymore. Never was. It was about every veteran told they're too old, too damaged, too confused to control their own life. May brought Mother's Day. David called early. Mom, can I take you to breakfast? Like that, son. We met at a small cafe. Conversation flowed easier now. Comfortable silences replacing anxious ones. David looked healthier, lighter somehow. I've been in therapy, he said. Working through why I enabled Lisa's abuse. What have you learned? That I was terrified of aging. Terrified of you becoming dependent. Lisa's narrative gave me permission to take control before I had to watch you decline. But I wasn't declining. I know that now. You were strong, independent, capable. I chose to believe lies because the truth required me to face my own fears about mortality. That was probably the most honest thing David had ever said to me. I'm proud of you for doing that work. We'll never have what we had before, Mom. But maybe we can build something better. Something based on truth. Like that. June marked the center's 1-year anniversary. We'd helped 127 veterans. Prevented 14 guardianship filings. Recovered $340,000 in stolen assets. Connected 80 families with legal resources. But the most important impact wasn't measurable in numbers. It was in the faces of veterans who'd reclaimed their dignity. Mr. Peterson, 72, whose daughter had been controlling his medication. She said I was too confused to manage pills. I've been managing them for 50 years. Mrs. Rodriguez, 68, whose son-in-law tried filing for guardianship. He wanted my house. Said I was incompetent. I showed the judge my perfect credit score. Captain Williams, 70, whose family canceled his medical appointments. They told the VA I was declining. I ran a marathon last month. Each story mirrored mine. The same tactics, the same lies, the same assumption that aging equals incompetence. But each story also included resistance, documentation, and reclamation. July brought unexpected heat and an unexpected visitor. Lisa stood at my door looking different. Older, humbler, smaller. Margaret, can we talk? Almost said no. Almost closed the door. But curiosity won. We sat on my porch. Not in my house. She hadn't earned that. I'm not here to apologize, she started. Good, because I wouldn't believe it. I'm here to explain. I don't need explanation. I need you to never contact me again. Please just listen. Against my better judgment, I listened. Lisa spoke for 20 minutes. About her own fears of poverty, her desperate desire for financial security. Her willingness to justify theft as caregiving. I convinced myself you'd be better off with us managing everything. That we'd use your money more wisely. More wisely than the woman who'd saved it. You weren't thinking of me at all. You were thinking of yourself. I know that now. Prison counseling taught me that I was projecting my financial anxiety onto you. Using your vulnerability as justification. I wasn't vulnerable. That's what I couldn't see. You were strong, capable, independent. But admitting that meant admitting I was stealing, not helping. Silence stretched between us. So why are you here, Lisa? To tell you that you were right to fight back. To thank you for not letting me destroy you. and to warn other families. I've been speaking at the probation office about financial exploitation, sharing what I did, why I did it, how to recognize the same patterns. That surprised me. You're teaching people about elder abuse. As the perpetrator's perspective, most abusers convince themselves they're helping. I want to break through that delusion before they destroy their families. I studied her face. This wasn't the confident woman who'd dismissed me at parties. This was someone genuinely changed by consequences. I'll never forgive what you did, Lisa. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that your refusal to be a victim probably saved other families. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she stood. Thank you for listening, Margaret. She walked away. I never saw her again. August brought my 66th birthday. A small celebration at home with my core unit. 8 nurses who'd stood with me that crucial Sunday. Patricia raised a toast. To Margaret, who taught us that rebellion isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, strategic, and absolutely devastating to those who underestimate you. We laughed, sharing stories of the past 2 years. The victories and setbacks, the families helped, the policies changed. Sandra leaned back in her chair. Remember when Lisa said we were too intense for a birthday party? We are intense. That's why we're effective. Beth nodded. Intensity born from years of making life and death decisions. You don't lose that just because you retire. Gloria added, and you don't become incompetent just because you age. The lessons we learned in the military don't expire. That's what predators don't understand. As evening fell, I walked them to their cars. Each goodbye included plans for next month's center fundraiser. Work continued. September brought the 2-year anniversary of my 48-hour ultimatum. 2 years since I'd reclaimed my home. 2 years of reconstruction, advocacy, and purpose. David called. Mom, I'm engaged. Her name is Sarah. She's a social worker. She knows our history. She's helped me understand it better. I'm happy for you, son. I'd like you to meet her. Only if you're comfortable. Like that. They visited the following weekend. Sarah was genuine, direct, refreshingly honest. David told me everything, she said immediately. What he enabled, what he failed to stop. I want you to know I've seen the work he's doing. The growth is real. I appreciate that honesty. I also want you to know that I'll never put David in a position where he has to choose between loyalty to me and protecting you. If I ever act like Lisa did, I expect him to stand up to me. Smiled. You'll do fine in this family. October brought the Margaret Chen Protection Act's first-year report. 847 veterans protected from fraudulent guardianship. $12.3 million in assets preserved. 234 criminal prosecutions initiated. My nightmare had become thousands of veterans' protection. The report included case studies. All anonymous, but all echoing familiar patterns. Family members claiming incompetence, isolating victims, filing false medical reports, attempting financial control. But now systems existed to catch them. Red flags triggered investigations. Mandatory competency assessments revealed truth. Veterans had advocates, resources, protection. November 15th arrived. 2 years since the party. 2 years since the ultimate humiliation that sparked ultimate rebellion. My nursing unit gathered at my house. Not to commemorate pain but to celebrate transformation. Colonel Hayes presented an award. The Nightingale Medal for Nursing Advocacy. Given to nurses who exemplify professional courage and patient protection. Margaret Chen, you demonstrated that advocacy begins with refusing to be silenced. This medal represents your courage and the courage you've inspired in others. The medal was heavy, substantial, real. I don't deserve this. Hundreds of nurses do better work every day. You showed that sometimes the patient you protect is yourself. That's powerful medicine. December brought David's wedding. Small ceremony, immediate family only. I attended, sat in the front row, watched my son marry someone who understood our complicated history. During the reception, David approached. Mom, thank you for coming. For giving us another chance. You're my son, David. That never changed. What changed was boundaries. And respect for those boundaries. Sarah joined us. Mrs. Chen, I want you to know that David and I created a family plan. Clear guidelines about elder care, financial boundaries, decision-making processes. We wrote it down so there's no ambiguity. Smart. Very smart. David squeezed my hand. I won't let history repeat itself. I'm holding you to that. January arrived. A new year, new decade. 3 years since the abuse began. 2 years since it ended. I sat on my porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching sunrise paint the sky. My house, my name on the deed, my rules inside these walls. The veteran center in my basement would help 15 more people this month. Financial abuse victims finding strength, reclaiming voices, remembering worth. Congressional legislation protected thousands. Speaking engagements educated millions. Legal precedents established boundaries. But the most important victory was personal. I'd refused to disappear. Refused to accept others' definition of my capabilities. Refused to surrender control of my life. Patricia called. Morning, Margaret. Ready for today's radio interview. Always ready. We're nurses. Ready is our default setting. She laughed. 3 years ago, you were being told to sleep on a couch in your own house. Look at you now. I looked around my porch. Am my garden tools no longer hidden? Am my car keys hanging by the door? At my mail sitting unopened, waiting for me to read it when I chose. 3 years ago I forgot who I was. Today I remember. And I'm making sure other veterans remember too. That's the real victory. Not revenge against Lisa. Not even reconciliation with David. The real victory is veterans across the country refusing to be erased. We built that together. Your unit stood with you. That's what units do. We closed the call. I finished my coffee, stood up, stretched. Another day of purpose ahead. Center meetings, legal consultations, speaking preparations. The work of turning personal trauma into systemic change. As I walked inside, I caught my reflection in the window. Not the confused woman Lisa described. Not the victim David enabled. Margaret Chen, age 66. Retired Air Force nurse. Decorated veteran. Homeowner. Advocate. Survivor. Free. The end.